Good evening. How are you? It's time for another video. I don't do these as often as I should, but I'm certainly doing them more often than I was. It's the 9th of November 2020, and yes, my hair is a complete mess because, the pandemic continues. But I want to start by thanking everyone who worked so hard in this political season and congratulate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for being the President and Vice President-elect of the United States. That said, President Trump's campaign and President Trump personally and some of his surrogates have been making a lot of noise about fraud, theft, people supposedly voting illegally, and they're offering no evidence. They have had, at this point in time, 5 lawsuits dismissed. There will be more dismissed, I am sure. They are hoping that they can win some of the lawsuits, but to this point they haven't. They are citing hearsay. They are citing someone who heard someone say something to someone else about something they thought they saw. And I could go on about the silliness of the claims they're making. I could go on about the fact that they held a news conference in front of a landscaping store when everyone thought they were going to hold it in the Four Seasons Luxury Hotel in Philadelphia, but they held it in front of the Four Seasons Total Landscaping or something like that next to a porn shop. And Mr. Giuliani, on behalf of the Trump campaign, Trump was golfing, presented as his star witness a man who, it turns out, had been convicted of raping, I believe, a 7-year-old girl. You can't make that up. It is a Republican thing. They did their press conference. They made their baseless claims. They went on. And they're claiming conspiracy when I've got to tell you, I don't think the Democrats could conspire to cook a good meal if they had to work unanimously. So I don't believe it. I don't even think it's possible. That doesn't even count the fact that they've driven anybody with even a hint of corruption out of the party ever since I've been involved in it, as was proven over and over again. But there is something, I could go on those things forever, but that's not what I want to talk about tonight. As we have seen throughout this campaign, when the Trump campaign and his surrogates say something, it's usually projection. They said that Biden's son had gotten help from China and there was money going to come to Trump or to Biden, and almost immediately it was revealed that Trump had a hidden secret account in China which he never reported, which someone whose identity is still not known put over $17 million in 2017, and Trump then withdrew $15.1 million of that. Every time they accuse the Democrats of something, it has been projection. And the accusation of fraud is the best example of projection on their part that I have ever seen. And this has gotten some press nationally. It should get a lot more. The press is too busy saying, well, the Trumps accused Biden of fraud in the election. Well, the Minnesota Reformer has a reporter named Ricardo Lopez. Someone forwarded to Ricardo a copy of an invitation they had to a private conference call with the chair of the Minnesota Republican Party, a woman named Jennifer Carnahan. Using his own name, no subterfuge, Ricardo Lopez registered for the call and received a message with instructions to enter the call, which was on Zoom. He did so. So on this recorded call, The state chair, Jennifer Conahan from Minnesota, asked Republican activists throughout Minnesota to find people to accuse the Democrats of fraud. She did not ask them to go out and find people who had seen fraud. She asked them to go out and find people who would say they saw fraud, which is a very different thing. That is conspiracy. That is conspiracy. And you see how quickly it came out into the news? But there's more. And it is the more that truly, truly disturbs me. Newsweek caught a hold of this story, and also on the 6th published a piece by Catherine Fung. Now, I would remind you again, this is a call where there is a record of the call. So there can be no question. This isn't he said, she said, or she heard someone say that someone they knew heard that someone else said something. This is factual. You can prove it through the record of the call. Newsweek reports that the national chair, Ronna McDaniel, made this request of all state GOP chairs. She asked them to go out and find people who would accuse the Democrats of fraud. People who would accuse the Democrats of fraud. That's mentioned offhandedly, more or less, in the Minnesota Reformer piece, but the Newsweek piece is very clear. The national chair of the Republican Party is working to coordinate effectively. I'm not sure if it meets the legal definition, but it certainly meets the common definition. She's effectively attempting to recruit state chairs, to recruit the equivalents of the people that are in the position I'm in, which is local leaders and local members of committees, to suborn perjury. And you can call it anything you want, and as I said, I don't know if it meets the legal definition, but when you're asking people to go out and find people who will make an accusation, whether or not it's grounded in fact, not people that will report what they actually saw and have evidence of, but people who will make accusations baselessly, in most cases, then you are suborning perjury as far as I'm concerned, regardless of the legal definition. So we have a situation where the Trump campaign, their surrogates in the Republican National Committee, the leader of the Senate, the leader of the House for the Republican Party, are all supporting what is pretty clearly a false narrative, a narrative that did not happen, are suborning perjury to support that narrative, and are more than willing to see the United States, let's be honest, people, they don't care if the United States falls. If they cared, they would not be trying to get people to make baseless accusations. They would be congratulating Biden, as some of their members did, including Leader McDaniel's father, which is Mitt Romney, I believe. It may be his niece, but I think it's his daughter. They would be moving forward. Biden is talking about as bipartisan a reach as any Democrat has done in decades. And they would be moving forward to embrace that. Instead, they're not just moving to embrace conspiracy theory, they're moving to lie to support a baseless conspiracy theory. I hope all of you will think about that. And if you have a Republican representative or senator, call them. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, but particularly if you're a Republican, call them and tell them you won't tolerate this. Thank you.